And welcome back to another episode of Bushwackers Breakdown, and today we take a look at A Good Confession and the Parable of the Older Brother. But before we dive in, just remember to like, comment, subscribe, and share this video with family and friends, help the channel grow. And Season 2 of the Bushwackers will be out pretty soon. So yeah, I'm pulling a Disney. Just being very, very vague. So, a brief synopsis. So, after the events of the menacing man, Luca, having a guilty conscience, goes to church where he talks to his parish priest, and he basically confesses to what he did, much to the horror of the parish priest. But before he can fully digest what he's been told, Luca dives into his own little story about the older brother. Anyone familiar with the parable of the prodigal son will basically see the humor in trying to understand the older brother's attitude towards his younger brother coming back and essentially not changing, just being a total dick. So in the story, the older brother is resentful over the fact that the younger brother still hasn't learned his lesson and is still acting like a dick. And when he discovers the younger brother has murdered a servant over olives, he takes matters into his own hands, and the father, who is grieved to learn what his older son has done, exiles him and is horribly upset. When Luca asks Father Matt, the parish priest, what he thinks, Father Matt is at a loss for words. So this episode really would be, I guess you could say, the most Catholic out of out of the episodes. Well, it certainly is the most personal because I'm pretty much nailing my colors to the mast. I'm letting you know, this is what I am and this is what I believe. I've been a cradle Catholic since I was a little baby, and I've always been taught that. You always go to confession, you make a good confession, and you receive absolution, and then you try your best not to sin anymore. And it's something that, that's been part of my, part of my existence as a human being and as a Christian for as long as I've been alive. So really, this is pretty much me just wanting to, make a departure from all the usual, guns blazing, doing stupid shit kind of thing, and kind of, in a way, sort of being serious, even if it doesn't seem to be serious. The fact that it's a very Catholic episode also shows, what, just how seriously I view, these sacraments, or what some people would see as rituals or ordinances. Now, I know that this is something that that's not shared by every Christian denomination, and that's fine. But for me personally, this is something that I've held dear, in my heart, and I make an effort to try and do, because really, from my perspective, when you make a good confession, you do feel this burden lifted off of you, and you're not feeling as, weighed down as you were before. But in this particular case, what I did was I put it on its head, and I took something that was pretty egregious from the last episode and kind of linked it up with this. And really, it's something that I've been working on, sort of have like a theme where all of the episodes kind of flow together. So before, in previous episodes, it was, each episode is standalone. Like, it's a new adventure every week. But now, everything is kind of flowing together. Everything's kind of going, the events of one episode kind of bleed into the second episode, and so on and so forth. So that was the first right there. What I wanted to do with this one was not only have a central theme going, but to also just, I guess you could say, sort of create a saga, really. What started in The Menacing Man continues in A Good Confession and will end in Toilet Man, basically. The the character of Father Matt is based on, well, if you don't know, it's based on Matt Fradd. The host of Pints with Aquinas, and I used to watch a lot of his videos, and I thought, how funny would that be if Matt Fradd was a parish priest and he had to listen to me coming in and making a confession about kidnapping and murdering 2 people. Because basically that's what it is. You just murdered two assholes. And I even tried my best to do an Australian accent, so Matt, if you're watching, it's nothing personal. I was just trying to imitate you, as it were. But it's sort of like a nod to, again, sort of like a nod to, to my Catholic heritage, and sort of a nod to the big names in Catholic social media, personalities, as it were. The church, I sort of wanted it to look like St. Anne's, because that's the church that I went to when I was a little kid, from kindergarten all the way, probably like up until 6th grade, and then we transferred to St. Vincent de Paul after that. Or maybe it was before, but I know for the most part, my elementary school years, I went to St. Anne's. So I was trying to sort of have it look a little bit like St. Anne's on Park Road. So is this 2 separate stories? Well, I guess you could sort of look at it that way, because really, it's just like one of those songs where it's like 2 little songs kind of put together, kind of like A Day in the Life by the Beatles, or I'm Just a Gigolo by Louis Parma. Really, you can sort of see them as 2 separate little events kind of linked together by the fact that it's Luca telling the story, or me telling the story, I should say, of me going and trying to make a good confession, and then sort of leading into me telling Father Matt, by the way, I wrote this story about the older brother from the parable of the prodigal son, because really, every time I read that story, I've identified more with the older brother, because it was just one of those things where I felt like this guy's done. He tries his best to do the right thing, and he gets shafted really hard by his dad. And when he says, Dad, I've been straight with you. I don't, I try not to do all this crazy ass shit, and you never let me, have fun. And here comes this, my younger brother, this total, degenerate. He basically, wastes his inheritance, and you throw him a big feast. And the dad's like, oh, well, you'll always be with me. And not to sound too sacrilegious, but, every time I read and hear that, I'm like, oh, are you serious? Like, this is what you tell your son. Like, why doesn't the son just go off and do what the younger brother did then? Be a total degenerate and just, fuck things up. Because then his dad would probably pay more attention to him as a result. So, in a way, I kind of wrote this as a response to that sentiment, but I also kind of felt like there's a bit of a theological angle to it, because for me the question is, what is the purpose of fidelity? Really, what is the purpose of fidelity to one's faith? If all it means is just continual suffering and continual ignorance, whereas the half-hearted who step into the limelight and promote the faith, they're lauded as heroes, and yet the people who are serious and diligent and scrupulous, they're mocked, pushed to the side. I mean, God doesn't even know they exist, and yet they bear it with patience. And a part of me sometimes just has to wonder, I mean, is the reward worth it? I mean, is it to just deal with this kind of ignominy day in and day out? And it's something that's crossed my mind quite a lot. I mean, the same could be applied to entertainment. There's a lot of people out there who are half-wits, not that very talented, people who don't do anything, like I don't know, Dylan Mulvaney, for instance. And yet they're being lauded and praised as heroes, whereas people who, put a lot of work and effort into making good content, they're overlooked. I mean, no one would ever know or hear about them. And the people who do know and appreciate them are very few and far between. And they're called the hipsters, and they're derided as a result. But it's just one of those things that kind of boggles the mind, and it kind of goes back to the whole question of the problem of evil. The classic example being, the Book of Job. Why do good things happen to bad people, and why do bad things happen to good people? I guess we could sort of like translate that to, why are the patient and the diligent, the faithful, just so badly treated? I mean, is it the fault of the person who is being mistreated, or the fault of the person who's inflicting the mistreatment? And for that angle, I kind of wonder sometimes if the person who's being mistreated doesn't do enough to stand up and say, hey, listen, I count. I deserve to be heard, listened, and treated with respect just as much as the person who is being a total douchebag is getting all the praise and adulation and attention. Because in the end, it's about just wanting to be heard, wanting to be wanted, just wanting to be appreciated. And the truth of the matter is, while ideally that is something that we all strive towards, to live in a world where people are appreciated and heard, that isn't the case whatsoever. I mean, we only have to look at cancel culture, where the slightest misstep, can destroy someone's life forever. I mean, the solution to that is to live without fear, to just not care. But the thing is that we put too much care and effort into that, and we give them the power, and when they do what they do, we allow it to harm us, and we allow it to inflict pain upon us, because in a weird way it's us getting that perverted form of attention, getting the attention from the people we desire, even if it's the negative kind of attention, like being canceled. I went down a really, really weird rabbit hole right there. But yeah, I mean, so that's basically the breakdown of A Good Confession and the Parable of the Older Brother. I have thought about doing more Father Matt stories. I have thought about doing a separate series called The Holy Bushwackers, where Luca and Father Matt and a nun, they basically investigate paranormal activities. But that's to be decided. I mean, I have a lot of crap on my plate at the moment, so it's just getting down to the point where I'm trying to figure out, which project is worth my time and which one I can put on the back burner. And it's just getting to the point now where I'm wondering if the projects on the back burner should probably just never be materialized. But we'll just have to wait and see. But thank you so much for watching. And if you did enjoy it, leave a like and a comment down below. And thank you so much for watching. Have a great day. Take it easy.